The Dark Ages, The Church, by Brooke Plummer, Sophia Varela, Scarlett New, Jaden Wardle, and Ethan Moore.
Overview report written by Jaden Wardle. In the 5th and the 15th centuries, a state of crisis arose in medieval Europe called the Dark Ages. In this period, one faction rose to power. This faction was the Catholic Church. Since the growth of Christianity to many nations and empires in Europe, the Church had more power than most kings in Europe due to the power to excommunicate or ban anyone who disobeyed the Church's rule from attending church, essentially dooming them to eternal damnation. At the top of the Church's social structure, the Pope reigned supreme. The Pope had the power to choose which person to become the Holy Roman Emperor. For example, Pope Leo III crowning Charlemagne Roman Emperor in the picture on the slide. The Catholic Church wanted to have full control over the city of Jerusalem or the Holy Land, and so they started the Crusades. The Crusades were a group of battles where Muslims and Christians fought in war. These crusades were supported and directed by the Catholic Church. In 1095, Pope Urban II announced the First Crusade at the Council of Clermont. He announced that Jerusalem was being attacked, and if you fought for the Holy Land, you would get a free pass to heaven. With the force of feudal knights, they traveled towards Jerusalem. The battles were long and caused the church to have many casualties. Both the Christians and the Muslims had numerous casualties, and by the end of the Crusades at 1492, it is still unclear who won. The Crusades initiated by the church caused many horrible after-effects. The economy of Jerusalem went down, and many people died with thousands of casualties. In 1346, a horrible disease called the Black Plague infected most of Europe. People infected by the Black Plague would get flu-like symptoms, then lymph nodes would form on their body causing immense pain. The Black Plague was first spread by diseased fleas on rats who traveled overseas by slave ships. The disease caused a sickening amount of casualties. At the time, it killed about 2/3 of the entire population of Europe and millions of deaths in other continents. The Catholic Church got major backlash for not being able to handle the Black Plague, leading up to the Great Schism, or the division of the Catholic Church.
Short story written by Scarlett New. In the mid-1400s CE, Pope Gregory of the Catholic Church woke up on a sunny morning. He began his morning by calling in on the cardinals. After a few hours, Pope Gregory was walking in the courtyard of the church. Suddenly, something strange started to happen. The ground started to shake, and the wind started to blow stronger. Pope Gregory didn't know what to do and yelled for help. Moments later, he was transported into another time. Pope Gregory found himself lying on the ground, covered in dirt. He got up and started to wipe the bits of dirt off his tunic. He looked around and saw 2 children staring at him, a boy and a girl. Their jaws hung in awe. "Where am I?" the Pope asked. "California," the girl replied, still in shock. "Is that near Europe?" Pope Gregory replied. "Europe is halfway across the globe," the boy exclaimed. "I'm Oliver, and this is my sister Lily," the boy continued. "I'm Pope Gregory of the Catholic Church," the Pope replied proudly. Oliver asked, "What's the Catholic Church?" "You don't know what the Catholic Church is?" the Pope replied. "No, we've never heard of it," Lily said. The Pope was shocked. "The Catholic Church was a very important part of Europe in my time," he began. "The Church became very rich and powerful and had a large influence on Europe." "Tell us more," Oliver and Lily exclaimed. "The Church is headed by the Pope. I am Pope Gregory, and I am heading the Church right now. I am at the top of the structure of the Church. Below me are cardinals. They are my advisors. Below them are bishops and abbots. They provide military service in exchange for land." "Wow, the Church must be really organized then," Lily said. "Yes, the Church operates in a very organized way. The Catholic Church also built many other Catholic churches across Europe. The biggest of these churches are called cathedrals. Cathedrals were very expensive to build and showcased lots of beautiful architecture. The layout of a cathedral was in the shape of a cross," Pope Gregory explained. "So, how did the Church convert so many people to Christianity?" Lily asked. "Well, the Church converted lots of people to Christianity through kings. Once the Church converted a king to Christianity, his nobles followed. Eventually, the king's whole kingdom would be converted to Christianity," the Pope replied. "Wow, the Church must have a lot of power," Oliver exclaimed. People would donate jewelry, land, and make donations to the church as penance for the sins they committed. The church was also paid to educate nobles' children. Eventually, the church became very wealthy. To a certain point, the citizens of Europe started to criticize the church for their wealth. To combat this view, the Pope created friars. Friars are wandering monks who went place to place begging for food and shelter. Oliver asked, what did the church do to people who did not convert to Christianity? At what point the church thought the devil was stealing people's souls and turning them away from Christianity. So, the church founded a new court called the Inquisition. The Inquisition was a group of priests whose job were to punish anyone who was against the church or working with the devil. It was getting late and the sun was beginning to go down. Thanks for teaching us so much about the Catholic Church and its impact on Europe in the Dark Ages, the two kids said. You're welcome, Pope Gregory said with a smile. Once again, the ground started to shake and the wind started to blow. The world seemed to spin for a moment, and then Pope Gregory found himself back in the courtyard of the church.
Charlemagne was a king of both the Franks and the Lombards who later became a Roman emperor. During all his rule, he tried to rule in a Christian manner. During the Middle Ages, he united most of Western and Central Europe. Charlemagne also founded a Frankish state called the Carolingian Empire. Charlemagne had been called the father of Europe because he united most of Western Europe for the first time since the classical era of the Roman Empire and united parts of Europe that had never been under Frankish or Roman rule. Pope Leo III was the Bishop of Rome and ruler of the Papal States. He was also the one who crowned Charlemagne emperor in 800. Charlemagne protected Leo, who was attacked by armed men on orders of relatives of Adrian I, who historians believe were prompted by jealousy or ambition. The Magna Carta is a royal charter of rights agreed to by King John of England on June 15, 1215. The Magna Carta promised the protection of church rights, protection of the barons for illegal imprisonment, access to swift justice, and limitations on feudal payments to the crown. However, neither side stood beside their commitments, leading to the First Barons' War. After King John's death, his son Henry III reissued the document in 1216, but stripped it from some of its more radical content in the process. Pope Gregory VII was head of the Catholic Church and ruler of the Papal States from 1073 to 1085, 1085 being the year he died. Pope Gregory VII might be best known for a dispute with Henry IV, other part he played in the investiture controversy. He was the first pope in several centuries to rigorously enforce the Western Church's ancient policy of celibacy for the clergy. Pope Gregory VII excommunicated Henry IV 3 times, which resulted in Henry IV appointing anti-Pope Clement III to oppose him in the political power struggles between the Catholic Church and his empire. Henry IV was Holy Roman Emperor from 1084 to 1105, King of Germany from 1054 to 1105, King of Italy and Burgundy from 1056 to 1105, and Duke of Bavaria from 1052 to 1054. Henry adopted an active policy in Italy, alarming Pope Alexander II's successor, Gregory VII, who threatened with excommunication for simony. Henry persuaded most of the German bishops to declare the Pope's election invalid on 24th of January, 1076, and in response the Pope excommunicated Henry and released his subjects from their allegiance.
Music by Ethan Moore. The song I have chosen is called All Creatures of Our God and King. It was written by St. Francis of Assisi and William H. Draper in 1255. The lyrics were based off of Psalm 148 and is often sung around Easter.
Important People by Scarlett New. Pope Gregory VII was the 150th Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. He was one of the greatest medieval popes. Pope Gregory vigorously started reforms and new policies to improve the Church. Pope Gregory VII was the first pope to dispose a crowned ruler. a revolutionary act at his time. He excommunicated King Henry IV 3 times. Pope Gregory was both loyal and clever. He believed that the Church was the supreme authority on earth and that all ordinary people alike were all subject to the will of the Church and its Pope. Pope Gregory VII died in 1085 around the age of 70. Pope Martin V is best known for ending the Great Schism of the West. He was born in 1368 and belonged to one of the oldest and respected families of Rome. Pope Martin V also began papal supremacy throughout Europe and organized a crusade between the Hussites. He also started several reforms for the Catholic Church. Pope Martin V helped end the chaos that was happening in Rome and successfully converted the country to Christianity. Pope Martin V died from apoplexy on February 20th, 1431. Benedict of Nursia is known as the father of Western monasticism and was the patron saint of Europe. When Benedict was young, he was sent to Rome to finish his education. During his time in Rome, he became a hermit. From there, Saint Benedict founded a monastery in Monte Cassino. This monastery became the roots of the Church's monastic system. He created the Benedictine rule, which included 3 vows: stability, fidelity to the monastic way of life, and obedience. Saint Benedict wrote the Benedictine rule in Cloister Garden, Monte Cassino. This was also where he died on March 21st, 547 AD.
Important Vocabulary by Ethan Moore. Priest, an ordained minister of the Catholic, Orthodox, or Anglican Church, having the authority to perform certain rites and administer certain sacraments. King, the male ruler of an independent state, especially one who inherits the position by right of birth. Pope, the Bishop of Rome as head of the Roman Catholic Church. Saint, a person acknowledged as holy or virtuous and typically regarded as being in heaven after death. Clergy, the body of all people ordained for religious duties, especially in the Christian Church.